Alexis Nunes alongside Gab Marcotti have been itching to pick his brain on this topic because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has spoken about United's needs, and surprise, surprise, he said, yes, guys, I know that we need a striker. He'll look for one in January, but he's looking for one that's long-term, Gab, that fits the club's needs, and that's the right fit for the club. So who's out there?
You know what? This is just so stupid. Like
the situation that they found themselves in.
Yeah. I mean, you're at a club which is their accounts are just out, the most profitable club in the world by some margin. You decide in the summer that you don't like Lukaku. Fine, you sell him. Mm-hmm. You decide that you don't like Alexis Sanchez. And we can go and debate whether it's right or wrong. And you leave yourself badly short-handed. I've written columns about this. By going into the season where Rashford and Martial are both in United's best 11, right? Mm-hmm. So really one can't really back up the other because they're both starting. Your backup is a guy named Mason Greenwood who looks a phenomenal talent, but
not quite there yet.
Well, nobody in the history, very few people in the history of football have produced for a team of United size at his age. Mm-hmm. So yes, maybe he is Kylian Mbappe, maybe he is Michael Owen or whatever, but the reality is most people at that age haven't contributed that. And you knew this going into the season. You knew this. And by the way, when they go and they talk about, oh yeah, but it has to be somebody for the long-term fitting in, why they mess around with Mario Mandzukic over the summer, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the dude's 32 years old. So I think this just speaks to more cloudy thinking. I don't want to blame Solskjaer because I don't even know if it's really down to him, to be honest. You know, we hear so many different things, right? Mm-hmm. United fans love to go and blame Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward's responsible for everything. Other times we hear that there's actually a committee of people, similar to Liverpool's famous committee with, you have Mike Phelan and John Murtha and Nicky Butt and Solskjaer and all these people weigh in. And I don't know. Who's out there? Can you get a better striker than what United have? Yes, you can. You can get many of them. It comes down to how much you want to spend. It comes down to where you are on the table. It comes down to who you can attract. So, yeah, we can throw random names out there, and I'm sure it'll happen between now and January, unless Martial and Rashford both get fit again and start scoring bucketfuls of goals.
Well, we do have a couple of names that, of course, we know that United have been linked with. I'll definitely get to pick your brain on that one. But is that just to say now that looking at the Rashfords and looking at the Mason Greenwoods and the Tony Martials, the fact that Man United are now understandably going through a transitional stage, and people, I don't want to say are willing to wait for the 3 years, but probably it's time to quell those expectations for the next 3 years. So are Tony Martials and Rashfords and Mason Greenwoods just not good enough to, in the long term, become that man for Manchester United?
No, I think Rashford, in the long term, can be that man, but he can't do it on his own. He needs help. Greenwood, you don't know, but what you do know is that players tend to develop and tend to become very successful when they're surrounded, well, young players, when they're surrounded by very good players. Mm-hmm. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Look at Lionel Messi, right? Those two guys did pretty well for themselves, right?
They're freaks of nature in a good way.
But what I'm saying is Mason Greenwood would probably be very happy if he had the sort of career those two guys had, right?
Yeah.
And those guys came into very successful teams where they were surrounded by lots of talented players, so they could grow and develop on their own. They weren't being chucked in there to go and lead a line against Arsenal on a Monday night on their own. And I think that's the misstep. And you look at this and it's really difficult to work out, I think, what is going on, especially when you also have the imperative that it's great to be patient and think 2, 3, 4 years down the line. That's wonderful. But then you ask yourself, A, can Solskjaer stick it out 2, 3, 4 years? And B, you also have an imperative that you want to finish in the Champions League places this season, right? Because among other things, if you don't, some of your or at least one of your sponsorship contracts gets reduced by 30%, for example. And all of that is money that goes to the bottom line. And in the situation that United are in, yes, they have tons of money, but they also have owners who take massive dividends every year. In the order, I think it's an average of about $20 million a year. So put all those things together, and it's really difficult to think how anybody thought it would be a good idea to go into this season with Mason Greenwood as your first choice striker off the bench.
And then quickly, just before we wrap up now, some of the names that have been linked with Manchester United: Moussa Dembele, the one at Lyon. We have James Maddison as well, Jadon Sancho. Any of those say yay or nay for you?
Well, if you're talking about a center forward, James Maddison and Jadon Sancho, I don't like labels.
But at least to add creativity.
They're not center forwards.
Creativity to lead to goals.
you can mention hundreds of names that would make Manchester United better, right? I mean, seriously, how many positions do United have where you're saying like, oh, yep. I always use this, right? Close your eyes. Imagine United in 3 years playing a Champions League final while also winning the Premier League, going for another treble, because that is what United needs to aim at. How many in the current squad are there on that day? And, you know, maybe a guy named David, maybe a guy named Paul if he sticks around, maybe a guy named Marcus, and probably not too many others. Maybe Harry Maguire. So you can pretty much upgrade just about everywhere.
Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much to Gab Marcotti. It looks like the search and the headaches might just continue for Manchester United, at least for now. Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.